All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. So today we're looking at this proposed law in Oklahoma, and it's kind of a big deal. It's about requiring parents to prove that their child is a U.S. citizen before they can actually enroll them in public school.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've got this article from CBS News that's breaking it all down. So we're going to really take a look at this and see what the potential implications are.
Okay. So, what are we thinking here? Is this just like an Oklahoma thing, or is this something bigger?
Well, that's a great question because, when you hear about something like this, you kind of wonder, is this just happening to one state? Or is this a sign of a larger trend?
Right.
And the thing is, it really does seem connected to this whole national conversation that's been happening about immigration and education,
Hmm. This is definitely a hot topic these days.
for sure. So to kind of start unpacking this whole thing, let's break down the actual specifics of the law. What does it actually say?
So basically, this law, it's trying to prevent kids who aren't documented citizens from enrolling in public schools in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And the way they're proposing to do that is by making parents prove their child's citizenship before they can even sign up for school.
Gotcha. So how are people reacting to this? Because I imagine this is kind of a controversial thing.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely stirring up some strong feelings. There are people on both sides of this issue with some pretty passionate viewpoints.
So what are the arguments? What are the people who are in favor of this law saying?
Okay, so the people who support the law, they're raising concerns about resource allocation. They're saying that undocumented students, they put a strain on the school system.
Ah, right.
And they're also questioning whether it's even legal, to be using taxpayer money to educate children who aren't here legally.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about the other side of the coin? What are the arguments against the law?
So the people who are against this law, they're worried about discrimination. They're saying that every child, no matter, where they were born or their immigration status, they have a right to an education.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the article actually quotes a mom in Oklahoma City,
Oh, yeah.
and she says, "My kids are scared. They don't understand why people are questioning whether they belong here."
Wow.
And it's just it really kind of brings it home that this isn't just about abstract policy debates. This is about real families and kids' lives.
It humanizes it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the logistics for a second. How would this even work in practice?
Right.
What kind of proof are we talking about here?
So you'd probably be looking at things like birth certificates, passports, those kind of official documents that prove citizenship.
Hmm.
But then you have to think about what happens if families don't have those documents readily available. And then there's the burden on the schools themselves. How are they going to handle checking all this paperwork? It's a lot of extra work for them, potentially.
Yeah. And wouldn't something like this run into some legal issues? I feel like I've heard of something like this before.
You're actually right on the money with that. There's a really important Supreme Court case from back in 1982 called Plyler v. Doe.
Plyler v. Doe.
Yeah. And in that case, the Supreme Court ruled that states can't prevent undocumented children from getting a public education.
Wow.
So if this law in Oklahoma actually passes, it's almost guaranteed that there will be legal challenges.
So this could end up being a way bigger deal than just Oklahoma then.
Exactly. It could set a precedent for other states to follow and really reshape the future of education policy across the entire country.
Yeah. And it makes you think about the economic side of things too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
if these kids aren't able to go to school, what happens to them down the line?
Yeah.
They might face more challenges in getting good jobs or contributing to the economy as adults.
Yeah.
And some experts are even arguing that ensuring every child gets a good education, regardless of immigration status, it actually benefits the economy in the long run.
It's complicated. There's a lot of different factors to consider here.
It really is a multifaceted issue, and that's what makes it so fascinating to dive into. It's not just about laws and politics, it's about real people's lives. Ethical questions, economics. There's so many layers.
Yeah, it's a complex issue for sure.
Mm.
So to kind of sum up everything we've talked about, we've got this proposed law in Oklahoma that could potentially really shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
It would require parents to prove their child's citizenship in order to enroll in school.
Mm.
And it's sparking a lot of debate.
Yeah,
And it could have huge implications for families, schools, and maybe even the entire nation.
absolutely. It raises a lot of important questions, How will this actually play out legally? What will the impact be on families and schools?
Okay.
How might this shape education policy going forward? It's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, definitely a lot to consider. So for everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? What do you think about this proposed law? Let us know.
We're interested in hearing all sides of this.
For sure. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See ya!
Bye.
Bye.